Ms. Clemency, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Ms. Perkins. It looks pretty cut and dry to me too.
Sure.
I move to the 2023 trim dates.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item E, Mr. Lott.
Good evening. These are definitely some trying times, some very unusual situations that we're running into everywhere. And last week, or week before, we got a proposed new policy from our friends at DFEX that many of our other districts have adopted to help us with some of these emergency situations that we may encounter during situations like this with COVID. And so this policy came to us, we ran it by our council, we made some alterations here and there. The first 5 parts of the proposed policy is dealing with emergency board meeting protocols like we're having now in regard to public comments, and how those could be done, and also how we could broadcast the meeting virtually, which we are also doing. And it basically just gives some procedural outlines for that purpose. And then after that, the next section, it deals with superintendent authority. These were actually 2 policies, and we just combined them into one since they both mirror one another in regard to emergency situations. And also it gives at the end, the last part of this talks about as an emergency adoption, it's only good for 9 days. This is not a long-term policy by any means, it's just for emergency situations like this. God forbid we run into a hurricane like they did in the Panhandle, this could be brought right back up and we could enact it again, something like that. Are there any questions about the proposed policy, any amendments any changes that you would like to see before we ask for adoption?
Mr. Keller, just out of curiosity, with it being an emergency policy, is there a reason we need, and I talked to Mr. Delaney about this, and so of making it just for COVID? I mean, since we referenced that if a hurricane came through, I mean, to just limit it to that, or? Yes, sir. You want to speak to that?
If I may.
Yes.
I think the idea is that we have a very unique set of circumstances where our governor, as well as on the federal level, states of emergency have been declared. And so this policy is designed to address this current condition right here, respecting the authority that's given the board, the authority that's given the superintendent through state statute and the Constitution. This policy is designed not to overstep those powers. So it's just for 90 days at the most. The board could always vote to rescind the policy when they feel like conditions warranted. So rather having it just sort of like as a button that we go out and push whenever there's bad weather or something, this was really for a unique set of circumstances. Mr. Lott's right. If something else did come up, the board could consider it and could draw on this for the future. But I don't think that we want to overstep the constitutional powers the board has and the superintendent has. And we want to stick with state statute as closely as we
Fair enough, sir.
And I can just comment,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to bring anything that I can to you that you're supposed to see. And I'm going to let you know as soon as, if I have to make a decision, and I'll tell you one that I have, is, and I sent you that already, and that's the Clorox 360 cleaning machines. And because the price tag of that meant that there's some policies that we would have to get it to do. But if I had to wait until this meeting to do that, we wouldn't get, I don't know if we get it all. So that's something that we need in our schools that we need to use for cleaning. It can be an investment for a long, long time. but, and I'll talk about another one a little later, but my intention is to bring everything to you that I reasonably can unless it's something that I have to act on.
I appreciate it. I just reached out to FSBA and just asked them just to give me any thoughts, so on what other counties were doing. And so that was just some of the comments and questions that they had. So I recognize that. Is there anything else that you would see, that you would need, that would be time sensitive like that?
Well, for example, and this, I had this for my board comments tonight. You're the one that approves trips and field trips. One of the questions that I'm sure you're getting, that I'm getting, what about Washington DC? Well, right now, I'm in conversation with the Sheriff's Department, but you're the one, since it's an out-of-state trip, you're the entity that approves them. And so in other words, I would have to bring it back to you. And my thing is, I think we have the time, but a field trip is fine,
Gotcha. Okay.
you know.
Good deal. So I just know with the ability to connect remotely and now and the waiving of the physical forum, so just want to ask those questions. So,
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is, the time.
This was defect.
Yes, yeah, Mr. Starling from NEFAC gave this to us. And when I said, you know, we could use this for hurricane, what I meant was this is a template. So if we ran into that situation, we just kind of alter it a little bit and bring it back to you for approval for another situation like that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Eckert?
Ms. Clemency, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Ms. Worthing.
Okay. Mr. Asble?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Uh,
So because this is an emergency policy, we don't have to have counseling, we don't have to go through the normal process of advertising that we normally would for that. But because it is an emergency policy, we can go ahead and ask for adoption tonight.
Okay.
For approval.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Lott. And my comments on that is, you know, if we, with emergency decisions, I think all of us are in agreement. We had to have more emergency board meeting, you know, the same thing would apply, that we are certainly willing to, you know, get together. And I think we have, you know, things in place for that, and things that we can do, but we're all willing to meet or whatever's necessary. Okay, item F, our district COVID MOU, Ms. Ayers.
Can she hear us? Can she hear us?
Yes, sir.
Good. Ms. Iris, Marla?
There she goes.
I'm sorry, I started muted. So, all right, I'll start over. Good evening, board and Mr. Superintendent. It's good to be here tonight. We just kind of wanted to make you aware of a recent MOU that we agreed to with our union, and to let you see what we've been working on as a team. And before I get into the details of that, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate, and our team has really appreciated Melody Carson and Annette Kinsey for their willingness to sit and just openly discuss all these unusual circumstances that we are facing. Mr. Edison, Mr. Lott, myself, Melody, and Annette, we even met again yesterday, just trying to keep the lines of communication open and to keep our focus on our continuity plan. So I just want to say thank you to Melody and Annette for working as a team. We all have the same mission, and I just want to say a special thank you to them. I think you have a copy of the MOU, and I just wanted to highlight just a few things that we placed in this. One thing we agreed on, everyone's working and everyone will be paid. That was one of the main concerns, with flexible working hours. And that has looked a little different on every campus, but we've tried to work with every employee, making sure they feel comfortable with the arrangements. We are going with the CDC guidelines in all the situations. And Mr. Edison and the team has been working with the administrators, and we've been fielding questions from Melody and Annette, and that was part of this arrangement here. We took care of some of those. All of our at-risk employees were going to be working, and they were not going to be working as an in-person contact is what we called it. They are working from home, they're coming in when no one is at the site, they're doing other things. So we've made special arrangements. Also in this agreement, we have a section you'll see, Families First Act, accommodations for those people, the emergency sick leave and the expanded FMLA is also in here. And we've spent quite a bit of time working on that. Employees can be assigned different duties than their normal duties. And we've provided personal protective devices the district has for our employees. One thing that keeps coming up is evaluations. And so it's looking a little different this year. Our evaluations will not be based on any student growth. It will just be based on the Danielson domains 1 through 4, and that's through administrators' formal observations, classroom walkthroughs, discussions, and I think everybody's feeling really pretty good about that. Usually, if anything keeps a teacher from having a very high performance, sometimes it's those last minute, those student scores that come in that lowers their scores a little bit. So I think we're going to have a great end of the year as far as evaluations go. We are sticking with the deadline for non-renewals that will be May 1st. Our May deadlines will still be in place for getting those evaluations in and for the non-renewals. Cleaning supplies, hand sanitizers, disinfectant wipes that was part of the agreement to make sure everybody had what they needed. All the resources that teachers need. The team has been working very hard. Our schools and teachers, administrators, and our district team, they've been working together to get every resource that we possibly can get together for our students and for their success. This arrangement will end. It will expire on June 30th or whenever this closure ends. So do you have any questions?
Was this in our pack? I mean, I see it in our board pack when we're here now, but was that emailed to us previously earlier? Or did it just come out, or what?
Well, ma'am, it should have been emailed to you.
Did you have it in your pack?
I think so.
I think so. You did? Okay, I guess I missed
It was
that.
at the end underneath after the trail.
Okay, all right, because I didn't read it until
Madam
yesterday.
Chair,
Yes, okay.
Ms. Angeles.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we need to vote on this one too?
No, ma'am. It wasn't, we weren't bringing it to you for a vote. We just wanted you to be clear of the details. And it was for information purposes.
Okay, so Mr. Dunn, you're okay with that?
Sure, I mean, it's my understanding that previously we have had MOUs voted on by the board, is that correct?
I think there's, yes, sir, I believe so.
Okay. I would recommend that.
yes, sir, we have. This is Angela.
Okay, I'd recommend that we follow the past practice.
Okay, all right, then we'll go with
The
that.
board's comfortable with it.
Okay.
Because the union and the board are coming together and saying, this is how we're gonna operate.
Right, I understand, I think so too. Do I hear a motion? Yes,
Well, I'll make the motion, but I have a question.
yes, sir.
So I saw that, but do we have any signatures from the other side that say that they approval? I mean, I'm sure we're gonna approve the stamp, or what I'm saying, fully negotiated, they've approved, they'll sign off if we vote on this?
They've already signed.
Okay, because I just didn't see that in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Etheridge, yes, they came in and signed after I had sent it out to you, but they did sign.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
great, thank
I
you.
move that we accept the,
Second.
District COVID-19 memorandum of understanding.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Brogan,
Yes?
can you guys hear me?
Yes,
I just
uh-huh.
want to tell Ms. Hires and the district, thank you for all that you've done. There's a lot that is under that umbrella of things to do, and you guys have just done a great job. This whole issue is so fluid, and just to look at all the issues that you guys are dealing with, from sanitary wipes all the way to bus drivers that are over 65 and giving them a place, it's just greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for those comments. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Hires.
Thank you.
Item G, the minutes from our March 24th meeting. Are there any changes?
No.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve our minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes to approve our minutes. Thank you very much. Consent agenda, are there any changes?
No.
Okay. I'll start with Mr. Asble.
Lord, you caught me off guard. I don't really have any questions. I do hate to see Tim Delano leave. Anytime somebody's been here, since I was in high school, that's impressive to me. Good long-term employee, and we will definitely miss him. I just thought he needed a little shout out right there.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Clemency?
No, I don't have any comments.
Thank you. Mr. Etheridge?
I do, on the power buying group, and I think this falls under Ms. Julia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I just, with all the things and the craziness going on within our nation and state, but is there any, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but are there any provisions given to the Fresh from Florida program in that power buying group? And my second question is, are we buying any imported product going into our school system?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second question.
Well, the first question, is there any provisions or exceptions for Fresh from Florida product? And the second would be, are we buying any imported product going into our school system?
The Florida Department of Agriculture, we have a provision in our contract with them under the USDA that we are only allowed to purchase products that is a product of the USA. There are a couple of exceptions, that being bananas, because we do not purchase, they do not grow in the US. And pineapple is also another one that we get out of country.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keller?
To tackle a little bit on last Friday, talking about the ag commissioner and the Fresh from Florida. She said that they were working desperately to try and connect districts with local farmers to source, to make sure to help out. So that was one of the things that was asked of her on that conference call. I will echo Mr. Asbell's sentiments about Tim Delano. Mr. Delano has served us very well for a long time, as did his father, who preceded him. So, some good people, and just appreciate all their efforts.
Thank you very much. And I think all my questions have been answered as well. Do I hear a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Edison?
Okay, first, just want to follow up on the safety patrol. As I've been in contact with the sheriff, and the sheriff has been in contact with the group does the travel, trying to figure out who's got what money, and make sure to see if we can get all of our money back if that's so decision. I'm going to bring to you at the next board meeting probably some different options. I think the safety patrol trip is probably one of the best trips that the board approves and sponsors, and it's a lifelong learning trip that kids never forget. I would rate the other one probably the St. Augustine trip. But we'll see. I don't know. We want to be able to talk to some sponsors, talk to some parents, get some feedback on different options and what they would like to do, and whether it's go or whether it's go in 6th grade or not go at all. But we will get some feedback from the people that actually want to go or are supposed to go. And so hopefully I'll bring you that at the next board meeting.
What has been the recommendation with the sheriff's department?
There's not one yet. I mean, we just talked. Last night, I was on the phone with him, and they were educational tours, but I've got to figure out, are we going to be able to get all of our money back, because I know they have a deposit. How much of that deposit is, different recommendations. I know educational tours would like for us to wait a couple of weeks, which fits within our schedule. And so I do know that in Virginia, I think they're shut down to out of state to almost say like June 10th. And this field trip is in the second week of June. So there's got to be some changes before this is even going to be allowed by Virginia.
Right.
Let's say out of state travel, but trips of this nature. Okay. The other thing is there's, you saw a news press release, I assume you did, the governor put out about Chromebooks to rural school districts. We will be receiving 2,000 brand new Chromebooks.
Great.
And so I know Morgan and them's putting in a process to, you know, we have to etch them. We just don't get them and send them out. You got to go through a process. So it'll take us a while. We'll need some help from NEFAC to get that done. I know one of the things that's near or a concern for everybody is the budget. I think it's like our state budget is 78% of our budget is driven by sales tax. And of course, right now, with restaurants and you know, Disney and a lot of attractions and things like that, our sales tax revenue is taking a hit. We were told on a conference call for the, you know, as the governor has not received the budget yet, and once the governor receives the budget, he has 15 days. We were told on a conference call to expect a 10 to 30% reduction in the budget. Now, education that's coming out there, you know that there's some stimulus dollars coming to Florida, and so we don't know what that means or what that's going to be. I do know, I received an email today from Kim McDougal that from the U.S. Department of Education, there's been a $3 billion pledge for education. And out of that $3 billion, that's $173 million to the state of Florida. And it's the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, and it's a broad range of what that can be spent on. So my big question, or big thing is, I don't know what's going to happen. The only thing I have to compare this to is when we had the recession back in, what is it, 2008? Okay, and then there was a stimulus package that came from the federal government then, and that's the only thing I have to compare. And I know at that time they told us to prepare for an 8 to 22% budget reduction. So that's all I know. So that's it. Any questions for me?
Any questions from Mr. Asple?
I'm sorry, I'm talking here. It's just habit.
No, ma'am.
Ms. Clemency, do you have any questions?
No, I'm having a hard time hearing a little bit, but I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Only thing I just would say is just if we could look at where we may have had savings and make sure, I know, like as we have purchases like the Clorox machines and things like that, so, and I know you are, and you're in that news of 10 to 30%. Anything we can do to bolster our reserves, so I definitely encourage that, so, and I appreciate your efforts in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say there's a positive out there. I mean, number one, buses aren't running every day,
Right.
you know, but I mean, but the positive is everybody's being employed, but we don't have the utility bills exactly what they are. But as always in Levy County, you have to be, with our tax base and revenue, you always have to be frugal. And so we are, I can tell you, Kim, make sure that we dot our i's and cross our t's on everything that we do.
No doubt.
She does a good job.
The sooner we can get our economy going, the better off it's going to be.
That's correct, yes. Any questions, Mr. Rudd?
No question.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to board comments, and I'll start with Ms. Clemency.
I just wanted to say, just a shout out to Yankeetown amidst all the COVID-19, just the way they've handled every aspect of it. I've been so impressed. I was able to sit on a call with Ms. Purse and the staff last week, and it was just a very positive, interactive, just a great call. They're very hands-on and dot their i's and cross their t's. We are at Yankeetown, they're having to virtually send packets now because someone in Yankeetown tested positive that has direct contact with the school, not employed by the school. But anyway, we're going to do that from here on out. So it's just a moving target. Kids are able to use Class Dojo or email, screenshot email their teachers. So the teachers are just being very gracious with this whole process. And I heard the term, I have 2 boys at Williston also, and I can't say enough about the way that they've handled it as well. Someone, everyone's kind of, the memes and talking about homeschooling and how hard it is. I have a 5-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old, so firsthand I get it. But this is definitely not homeschool, because I feel like the partnership I have with my kids' teachers during this time, I couldn't do it without them. So I'm very proud of our whole county and how they're handling this situation.
Amen.
And that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Aspel?
I have a couple things. I think on the big picture, we're handling things pretty good. Honestly think it got off to a rough start, and it's gotten better. There were some overzealous people, some underzealous people, and some people that were pretty focused, and I think we're getting there. I do have some concerns that can be addressed, cannot be addressed. I'm concerned, and these are things, I'm concerned as a daddy, and I'm also concerned as a school board member because I get calls about this. The attendance thing we got going on, and this may be only at one school, I do not know. Kids are having to check in at various times throughout the day, answer little trivia questions, be on here at this time, be on here at that time. And that's kind of hard. I'll reference the main mama that called me about this. She is a nighttime nurse in a NICU. She works overnight. She gets home. If her kids have to be still asleep at 8:30 when she gets there, she lets them sleep, but she's dog tired. And she's got several teachers that say, oh, you got to check in at 9 o'clock for attendance. So it's really, and it's kind of strange to me, and I'm sitting here going, I don't see why we can't use the turning in of the work as attendance, because it's a whole lot different now. But I'm putting that out there as a concern. The other thing that I have been called about is people are we're doing a good job, we're doing a better than average job of communicating. Communication always needs to be improved on. But this same mother that called me on that, she was also telling me about this, and I said, yeah, that could be rough. She's got a kid in elementary school, two kids in elementary school, 1 kid in middle school, 1 kid in high school. Those 4 kids have 4 or 5 different ways that their teachers are getting a hold of them. They've got blooms, they've got remind me. She didn't even know they had a Gmail email that she was getting information on. So it's kind of like you're all over the place, and it's something, one more thing for people to keep up with. I don't know what we do about that, because I'm the one that harps on, we need to communicate with people. Now we're communicating, but maybe we're throwing too much. Somehow consolidate it down. Those are concerns. I'll let you get to all that in just a second. I just wanted to point this out. The other day, I watched the governor's news conference where he had the various people from the state talking on there and about how good this was going. I noticed he referenced some people in big towns that were talking about how they were doing so good on online, but he never once referenced somebody from a rural area with limited internet, in the middle of Levy County, that's having to struggle to get their kids there. And I love the idea that we got these 2,000 Chromebooks, but I'm concerned we're getting Ferraris that we don't have tires for. If our people can't use them, what are we going to do? And so I throw all that at you at one time. So if y'all got any insight into that, please share with me.
All right, Cameron, I'm going to, and Mr. Lott, if you need to chime in. Some of these issues, I had conversations with the elementary school principals today, and we're putting out some things where we addressed some of these things today, and I have clarity with there. Mr. Lott's been working with our secondary schools, and we'll have conversation this week and some more to address some of your concerns. I can tell you what we've communicated on attendance is that if you have there's a conversation, I mean, it doesn't matter to us whether it's an email or a Zoom or a phone call, if there's a conversation and then you have the work, then that means they're there that week. And there is never been out anything about you have to contact at a certain time or anything like that. That has never been communicated from us, and that's the first time I've heard of that. But
I think there's interpretation out there going on, is what I think is going on.
so
You right now, this time it's kind of like the Bible. Don't go interpreting. This is the way it is.
yeah. So what's happening is virtual meetings are great, but when you sit down, I mean, I'm not seeing everybody else is on here, and it's kind of hard to get the interaction that you need to have sometimes to make sure the communication is there. So it's one of those things where it goes from here to there to there to there to there, and once it gets to the end, sometimes it's lost its interpretations entirely different. So we're hearing some of these things, we're working on them, and we're hopefully to improve this week. I can tell you that part of the problem is, again, I go back to the analogy, building the plane as it is in the air. Because originally we started off with a 2-week plan. And then all of a sudden it got shifted, so everything has happened, and we didn't know, we've never done this before. And so we're having to learn, and our teachers have never had to learn a lot of this, have never used a lot of this technology. And so it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stress out there on our folks, and I know it's a lot of stress on our parents. And because they're being put in some situations where they're not necessarily the most comfortable, having to teach and do some things and conversations that they're not normally do, their teacher does. But we're working on it, and I can tell you by the end of this week, we'll be better than we were at the end of last week.
Good deal. Good deal. That was a big thing. I don't want to stress on the parents, but I don't want over stress on our teachers and just concern. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Etheridge. Mr. Etheridge?
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. I don't have a lot, and I think the COVID-19, as we see some things maybe starting to change for the positive, maybe conflicting stories that are coming out, and sure the results behind what we're doing may be a lot different than, and thank goodness, a lot different than was anticipated. I watched the governor's webcast on Friday. I saw where he said 60% of the infected people are in 3 counties in our state. If I looked right before I came home today, I think we have 3 closed cases and 4 active cases in the county today.
Well, the last I heard, which was yesterday email, was 5 positives in Levy.
5 positives in Levy County. We have almost 40,000 people in our county. Hopefully, spike, no spike, whatever we want to hear about, but I think we're seeing some, and I won't say this as politically correct as I can, but at the end of this, hopefully it's not going to end up what they predicted, and it's going to be a whole lot less than what they predicted. But for the health, and I don't know the legalities and what my ask is gonna be. I know that it was under high recommendation from the governor that we close our school systems down. I'm gonna ask that we start looking and planning to get our schools back open, because I think it's what's healthy for our county. You know, I know that there's still great fear. Our county does not operate when schools are not in place. We're gonna start dealing with issues a lot bigger than COVID-19, with some mental health issues and some other things that are gonna go on with our county. If we don't, I don't know how we do that. I know the governor talked about maybe some stair-stepping things, maybe some counties least impacted be more. Maybe it's something where we can introduce 2 days a week. And I'm not talking about next Monday, but if the 30th is the end of this 2-week window we've been working under, and the things keep working in the direction that we're working in now, then I'm just gonna ask that we start looking to prepare, so when there is an opportunity for us to start back and get some normalcy back to our parents and our students, and end the school year in a more positive manner than the direction we're going in. Yeah, but I do appreciate the staff. It's been amazing. It's amazing that we're doing what we're doing today with the resources we have available in our county. And that's through the blood, sweat, and tears of everybody pouring what we have on the table and putting their brains to it and making sure our children are taken care of. And that goes beyond just the educational part of our school. We have students who are not participating in extracurricular activities, who occupy their time to make positive things happen in their life. All that's been excluded. I'm going to give a small example, and I think I told the superintendent this today, but I got students who's struggling a bit as a junior in this transition. He was working on his geometry the other day in our office, and I had my daughter who is a junior in college, and a girl in my office who graduated University of Florida 2 years ago, and my wife who's a college graduate, all sitting at the conference table working on geometry, and they're fighting it. And I don't think there's very many students that are in our school system, in our county, that have that many resources available to them on a day-to-day basis. I don't want to set our kids up for failure. And I mean, I don't give a, we challenge them, don't get me wrong, we've all been challenged in this. We've all been challenged in it. But I want to make sure at the end of it, if there's a possibility, I don't care if it's for 3 weeks of school, that we end the year, we can maybe put something together back for our seniors. If this thing is going in the direction and the numbers keep doing it, we're doing it, we're in place, we can be one of the first counties in the state, because we're pretty small impacted about the situation, to put it back in, even if it's on a limited number of days a week, to get some normalcy. That's all.
I agree. Thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Keller?
First off, I just ran the numbers, the approximate numbers, so just, we've got roughly 5,500 students, and so we're feeding about 4,635 kids on a weekly basis. And just, I tip my cap to everybody that's keeping that going, from the ladies and the staff that are making the food to all the people that are making sure it gets to our kids. So just really appreciate that. I guess that I want to piggyback a little bit off what Mr. Etheridge and so, and just, I would love to hear at our next board meeting how we're supporting, especially our ESD kids, and providing them the services. I realize, if they're getting services that are in, so because I think that's a population that we know that we have great numbers of, but we know that they have the needs there. So just would recommend, so if you could bring that
I
to
could
us.
have Dr. Hall do that. I know she's burned up many candles trying to do this, and there's not a great solution.
And I piggyback also of what Mr. Etheridge said about the mental health, because you see it in Facebook posts and texts and calls and things like that, and people that are educated people that are at their wits' end. And I wholeheartedly agree that the sooner we get back to normalcy, which, will it ever be normalcy? We hope that eventually that it will be so, but routine truly helps with our kids. And with that, have we had any conversations about, you know, I realize that we're 6 weeks away, graduations and things like that, proms, so a way to either push it out, a way to do something virtually for like the kids for proms, so maybe had any internal conversations, or what are you hearing on your side, so.
We actually have a Zoom meeting scheduled this week, I think it's tomorrow, with all of our secondary principals to discuss that very thing. And we've already had some preliminary discussions about some alternatives. And so we're going to put our heads together, brainstorm. Each community is a little different. Each community has some different resources.
Sure.
And we'll go from there. But certainly we are on that, and we are thinking about that. And we will come up with a plan soon.
That we hope we never use.
Yeah.
Amen. I hardly agree with that, so. And then we ordered the 50 hotspots, and those were going to seniors, have they been distributed?
They have been distributed to schools. Morgan, am I correct?
Yes, sir, you're absolutely correct. All 50 have been assigned to students at the 4 high schools and are being used.
Okay, so are you hearing on your conference calls with FADs, what are they saying about time? I mean, is there a possibility of something like us, of us coming back before, you know, what's right?
Nobody's mentioned anything about time. I did read, I mean, if you read Doolin's post, and I think it was one of those where it referenced a national reporter, you know, about the governor saying something about wanting to get back as early as possible, and there will be some criticism. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I've read. I do know everybody wants to get back and get the economy going and working. And so as soon as possible. But I have not heard anything about timelines. I would think, I'm math guy, so I'm logic. I would think that these counties that aren't heavily impacted, you know, I would think they could crank up earlier. And then I know that in South Florida, they've extended, you know, ours is through May 4th right now, is looking back at the first day back. I know theirs has been extended longer than that. Okay? Well, that's through, the governor made the recommendation, the Portland has made the recommendation, so they went down there. But that was back when we went to May 4th, they were 2 weeks longer. There was 4 counties, and it's the 4 islands. That's down there, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, Brevard, and there's one other.
Is there a measuring tool? I mean, if we go 2 weeks without a positive case, or is there any kind of, where are they going to say that it's safe for us to go back? Who's that a measuring tool back? I mean, 4 cases active in your county amongst 40,000 dictates that we shut the whole businesses and all the schools down in your county. Scientifically, it doesn't even measure on math. I mean, it's not even, it doesn't. I just wondered do we have to be clean? Who's setting the rules? But it's not a rule because it's just a recommendation.
Yes, sir, it's a recommendation.
So can this board or any board or superintendent within the county or the state of Florida say, we're starting back next Tuesday?
Yes, can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, David, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, I think we have to take our cue from what Department of Education and the governor are putting out in Florida in terms of what has to be done. They put the directive that we're going to have these rolling 2-week sessions. So I think we would need to get a green light from them before we reopen. What I have read, not as an expert, but just consuming the information that's out there, the media and so forth, is lots of people are emphasizing don't look at positive tests because that usually doesn't come accompanied with how many tests are getting done per capita in your area. So just because there's X number of test results, if you don't know how many tests are getting administered, that number's meaningless. So typically what they say is focus on hospitalizations or, you know,
We don't have any hospitalizations in our county because we don't have hospitals.
Right. But trying to find out more definitive, you know, people that were being sent somewhere for admission. Suwannee County didn't have hardly any cases until they had 70, you know, all at once in that one nursing home. And so I think that's the concern. North Dakota didn't have hardly any cases until their whole pork processing plant got shut down 300 people paying that. So it's hard to know what's the incidence or the rate of it in your area without knowing how many positive tests you're getting and how many tests per person in the county are being administered.
I'll tell you, the one thing that's real is fear.
It's probably bigger than the other ones.
So that's real. And I understand.
And so the media's done a wonderful job on that part of it.
Do you have any more comments? Thank you. I, for one, am certainly ready to get back to our regular meetings. I like seeing everyone and reactions and everything, but I do thank everyone for being in the meeting and coming in, and any of the public that does need to send comments, to please do it. I was very disappointed to hear about our School Board Association conference canceled because of all this, so that's going to be another change that's different for us. I think the meal programs are going very well, and it's a really positive thing, and it's truly always wonderful to help the schools and give those out, and it's very nice and needed, and I'm so glad that we are doing that and continuing to do that program. I am concerned, as Cameron has stressed as well, about the stress on parents and teachers and students. Most of the students, when you see them, with helping with the meals, they miss their teachers. I mean, they're just light up when they see those teachers. It's an important part of their life and their learning, and I think the parents are happy for, to go back to school and, the regular school setting. But we've got to remember our teachers as well, because I am hearing a few things that, they're having to teach their own children. It's stress on them. We don't know. It is a day-to-day thing. We are changing as we go, and it's something totally new for all of us. So I think that our communication needs to be clear. It needs to be the same with every school, just for an example, the enrollment or the things that we're doing. But that's very important to the teachers too, and then we need to support them as well. And then I'd like to say that Chiefland High School is one of the 1,800 schools worldwide to implement a AP capstone diploma program starting next year. And this is a really big deal. Chiefland High School, it's a new program, and I'm extremely proud of them and the success and things that the kids are going to get out of this program. So it's a great thing that they're doing at Chiefland High School, and I'm thrilled for them. And that's all the comments that I have. Are there any other comments, Mr. Delaney, or anyone else?
Ms. Brooks, can I have a quick question?
Yes.
As you guys, I know everyone's heard, I mean, domestic violence has spiked, and child abuse, as well. As far as counselors provided to our kids, what's the protocol for that?
I would think the protocol's been the same as it is. I do know that we do monitor emails that come through, and we've got a system to do that. So if we know of issues, that we deal with it, and then we always have.
Yeah, that's just, that was my concern too. I hated the bus routes being, limited to once a week. I know there are reasons for that, but just to have your eyes on these kids, I mean, I just worry about the children if they're, I'm a fan of a robocall, like a condensed robocall, just with some outlining information and maybe throwing a number in there if somebody's in need, but I just didn't know what the counselor situation was for the county.
Yeah, I mean, they're all working, and we still have the same supports as we always have.
I forgot one thing I wanted to mention, if that's okay.
Okay.
I think it's great. I've noticed we were getting mass emails sent out by Kaylee Wade about counseling for our people, for our employees during this. And it also, I happened to contact Kaylee today about services during this COVID thing to see if we had testing, and she explained at our health center how that would work. And I've just been really impressed with her ability to get out the information to our people and answer questions. And just a great job. And I think Ms. Clemency bringing up about counseling. I think it's great that we have that available for our employees and their families at no cost. And Kaylee has made it a point to let everybody know about it.
What is that process? What did she explain to you on that? I don't know.
Basically, the health center had like 5 test kits, but they are recommending you go to the health department and make arrangements for an appointment to have the testing, because it's like basically like a drive-through type situation. That's what she recommends on it. I'm not reading the email right now where we had that conversation. I just didn't know if we had a stack of those things back there, because you watch the news and all that, and they go, oh, go to your primary care physician. Well, we have done a great job of making that the primary care physician for so many of our employees, and I just wanted to be sure there was a plan in case somebody went out there with symptoms. What do you do? Could we test, or do we have a protocol? And she explained it to me, and it's basically, we do have some testing there, but they're going to recommend doing it through the Levy County Health Department, and they're monitoring a couple of situations where we thought nobody has been found to have it yet that's an employee, but they were watching. They had some sickness, but it was just good old-fashioned sickness, not this stuff.
Good.
But my whole reason for bringing this up is just, I'm really impressed with her getting that information out, and that counseling thing. I don't know, it's confidential, I don't know who's taking advantage of it, but when we started that program, there were people who said, can't believe y'all are doing that, that's a waste of money. I think it's something that is very important and a very good thing for our employees to have, because we don't know the long-term mental health things that are going to come from this. I know in my house, my kids are doing their homework and doing their schoolwork. They hate having their mama as their teacher, but they're going to get through that part. The part that's driving them up a wall is just like was referenced before. They don't see their teachers unless they happen to be riding in the car somewhere, and they don't see their friends. My 3 kids are not their own friends. They're like, yeah, we're stuck in a home with these guys, but our friends are over here. And just like with our meeting here, I can see all y'all, but it ain't the same.
It's not the same.
I enjoy being in a room with Brad Etheridge, Chris Cower, Faye Brookins, and Ashley Clemency. I didn't even like that attorney. I like the superintendent, and I miss seeing y'all. And our kids are going through that too. Our teachers are going through that. People are people. We need each other. And I think it's important that campaign is available, because we don't know. We don't know what that's going to do. Anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.